The date is March 31st, 1985. The air in Madison Square Garden is thick with an electricity palpable enough to taste, a charged anticipation humming through every fiber of the packed arena. WrestleMania, a grand audacious gamble by the World Wrestling Federation, is in full swing, and a monumental showdown is on the horizon. The reigning World Tag Team Champions, the US Express, consisting of Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham, are poised to defend their titles, Florida territories, before bringing their all-American charisma north. The rising tandem embodies clean-cut Americana, a stark contrast to the storm brewing in the opposite corner. Their opponents are the nefarious, politically charged duo of Nikolai Volkov and the Iron Sheik. The Sheik, with his sneering disdain for American values, and Volkov, a towering embodiment of Soviet antagonism, are the thing they represent. This isn't just a wrestling match, it's a Cold War proxy battle unfolding in a squared circle. It's a spectacle designed to incite, to provoke, to make people clamor for a glimpse of this theatrical villain. The Iron Sheik, ever the opportunist, uses Freddie Blassie's cane, a foreign object in the truest sense, to fell Windham, allowing Volkov to secure the pinfall. The US Express, the champions, are dethroned. It's a dramatic, pivotal moment, and while they would reclaim the titles 2 months later, that second reign too would be fleeting. Their time at the top, much like their overall tenure in the World Wrestling Federation, would prove to be surprisingly short-lived. A footnote in a burgeoning empire rather than a defining chapter. To truly understand the narrative arc of the US Express within the Federation, one must look beyond the immediate glory of their championship reigns and delve into the underlying currents that shaped Vince McMahon's vision. For a team that held the prestigious Tag Team Championships twice, their story is not one of sustained dominance or a consistent main event push. Instead, it's a fascinating case study in how a supremely talented, popular, and technically sound duo could be used as a strategic stepping stone, ultimately deemed incompatible with the evolving landscape of the Federation's nascent national expansion. Mike Rotunda and Barry Windham, brothers-in-law in real life, had honed their craft in the rugged, competitive environment of championship wrestling from Florida. There, as the US Express, they captured the United States Tag Team Championship 4 times. Their foundation was solid, built on a blend of Windham's agile athleticism and Rotunda's grounded, no-nonsense intensity. When they arrived in the World Wrestling Federation in 1984, they were already a polished product, ready for a larger stage. The Federation, under Vince McMahon's ambitious leadership, was rapidly transforming. The regional territories were being absorbed, and a new, more theatrical and family-friendly product was being crafted for a national audience. The US Express, with their patriotic gimmick, seemed to fit perfectly. Managed by the eccentric and beloved captain Lou Albano, they made their Federation debut on October 30th, 1984, quickly establishing themselves as a formidable force. Their ascendancy to the Tag Team Championship was swift. On January 21st, 1985, less than 3 months after their debut, they defeated the East-West Connection to claim the gold. This victory cemented their status as legitimate contenders and fan favorites, embodying the American spirit against the more villainous, often foreign-aligned opposition that Vince McMahon so effectively utilized to generate heat. The narrative was simple, yet effective. Clean-cut American heroes battling the forces of evil, a formula that resonated deeply with audiences of the era. Their first championship reign, however, culminated in that dramatic loss at WrestleMania. The defeat to the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov was more than just a title change. It was a carefully orchestrated moment of villainous triumph, designed to further elevate the despised foreign heels. The image of the Sheik striking Windham with Blassie's cane, a blatant disregard for rules, amplified the villainy of their opponents and the perceived injustice suffered by the US Express. It set the stage for a classic hero-villain dynamic, one that demanded retribution. And retribution, for a brief period, they received. On June 17, 1985, in Poughkeepsie, New York, the US Express regained the Tag Team Championship from Volkov and the Sheik. This second reign might, to some casual observers or those with a superficial understanding of wrestling history, suggest that the US Express indeed received a significant push. After all, 2 championship reigns within a year is no small feat. However, a deeper analysis reveals a more complex truth. These reigns were, in essence, transitional. They served a purpose within Vince McMahon's grander narrative, but that purpose wasn't to establish the US Express as a cornerstone of the company's future. Their second reign lasted roughly 2 months, concluding with another controversial loss, this time to the Dream Team of Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus Beefcake at the Spectrum in Philadelphia. The finish was equally egregious, with Beefcake rubbing manager Johnny Valiant's lit cigar in Windham's eyes, blinding him and securing the pin. This pattern of losing the titles through nefarious means, while intended to protect the US Express's babyface integrity, also subtly reinforced their role as victims rather than dominant forces. The US Express effectively disbanded near the end of 1985 when Barry Windham departed the Federation to return to Florida. Their last match together under the Federation banner on October 30th, 1985, marked exactly 1 year since their debut. This swift exit, especially for a 2-time tag team champion, speaks volumes about Vince McMahon's assessment of their long-term viability. One might ask why a talented, popular, and champion-caliber team could be seemingly discarded so readily. The answer lies in Vince McMahon's evolving vision for the World Wrestling Federation. The mid-1980s marked a radical shift from traditional, regional wrestling to a national, spectacle-driven entertainment product. This new era demanded larger-than-life, cartoonish characters, performers who could transcend the confines of the wrestling ring and become pop culture icons. Hulk Hogan, with his bulging muscles, vibrant persona, and catchphrases, epitomized this new archetype. He was also all-American themed, much like the US Express, but Hogan possessed an undeniable edge, a visceral connection with the audience that went beyond technical prowess or clean-cut appeal. He was a superhero in neon yellow. The US Express, for all their talent and patriotism, were perhaps too normal. They were excellent wrestlers, good-looking and relatable, but they lacked the exaggerated, almost caricature-like qualities that McMahon was increasingly seeking. They were too clean-cut, not provocative enough, and arguably not distinct enough in a landscape rapidly filling with outlandish personalities. While fans undoubtedly appreciated their skill and American spirit, they didn't possess the theatrical bombast that McMahon believed was essential for national penetration. They were, in essence, used as a reliable, credible tag team to elevate the villainous characters McMahon truly wanted to push, providing them with legitimate opposition and a championship to win. Once that purpose was served, the US Express became expendable. A true push in the Vince McMahon lexicon of the mid to late 80s wasn't merely about holding gold. It was about long-term investment, consistent main event positioning, and being an integral part of the company's future direction. The US Express's reigns, while notable, were brief and punctuated by controversial finishes that often highlighted the villainy of their opponents, rather than the dominance of the champions. They were tools to establish heel credibility, a valuable function, but not the foundation of a lasting legacy within the Federation. It's telling that Real American, originally written for the US Express, was repurposed for Hulk Hogan after Windham's exit. An unspoken admission that Hogan, with his larger-than-life persona, not the US Express, was fated to embody the Federation's vision of patriotic heroism. In the end, it wasn't just a theme song that changed hands. It was the role of America's wrestling icon. The aftermath of the US Express's initial run in the Federation further illustrates this point. After Windham's departure, Mike Rotunda was paired with Dan Spivey, forming the American Express, essentially recycling the patriotic gimmick. While they continued to feud with prominent teams like the Dream Team, the Moondogs, the Hart Foundation, and the Islanders, this iteration of the team also had a relatively short lifespan. Both Rotunda and Windham went on to have successful careers outside of their initial Federation tag team run, testament to their individual talents. Windham became a prominent figure in World Championship Wrestling, even joining the legendary Four Horsemen. Rotunda, perhaps most famously, returned to the Federation as the nefarious tax accountant, Erwin R. Shyster, a gimmick far removed from the clean-cut patriotic image of the US Express, but one that undeniably found a greater, more enduring connection with Vince McMahon's vision for a character. This reinvention itself suggests that their original persona was not seen as having long-term main event potential. They were skilled, they were popular, and they achieved championship success. But they were ultimately a product of a transitional period, caught between the old territorial guard and Vince McMahon's bold, new cartoonish landscape. They served their purpose, elevating villains and providing compelling, credible opposition. But when it came to being part of the Federation's long-term evolution, Vince McMahon seemingly made his decision. He used them to set up his heels, to provide a legitimate challenge, and then, when he was done, he moved on, searching for the next, more flamboyant piece of his ever-expanding entertainment puzzle. The US Express, for all their all-American spirit, were just too real for the burgeoning realm of sports entertainment. Their recent induction into the WWE Hall of Fame, decades later, is a belated acknowledgement of their undeniable talent and contributions. But it doesn't change the historical context of their initial, short-lived, yet impactful run as champions in a company that was quickly changing the game.